welcome to this week's show. Today I'm going to make for you the most exquisite and decadent dark chocolate cake. Now this one really is predominantly melted chocolate, and it's sort of one of those cakes that really you can only eat a really small amount of, or unless of course you're a chocoholic like me, in which case I could probably sit down to most of it. But if it's something, it's the sort of thing rather that you could make for taking to someone else's house. And the reason I say that is because you'll only need to make one and it will feed a multitude. Now I'm going to make it today in a round cake tin, but it could easily be made too in a bar tin, which I think, or a loaf tin, which I think would be fabulous, because you could cut off very, very thin slivers of it, serve it with a berry coulis, for example, lovely fresh fruit, and of course the mascarpone that we're going to be doing it with. Now it's got raisins in it that have been macerated as well, and the liqueur, I actually use masala, but you could use any liqueur that you like. In fact, an orange liqueur I think would be quite divine, and you could even adapt it quite considerably by adding a little bit of orange juice through it, maybe some orange rind would be nice. Anything that goes with chocolate will work really, really well. So it lends itself to being manipulated quite easily. I think you're going to love it. It's very, very easy to make. And of course, don't forget that a lot of the base recipe and skill and techniques I won't be doing in the recipe today, but those are available back on the website. If you come back to Black Book Cooking, you'll be able to see all of the elements in their entirety, because today it's just snippets of them as we put the recipe together. So let's have a look to begin with the ingredients you're going to need to make this recipe. For this cake, you will require some raisins that have been soaked in masala, 350 grams of dark coverture chocolate, unsalted butter, caster sugar, strong espresso coffee, self-raising flour, Dutch cocoa, 4 egg yolks, and 4 egg whites that will be made into meringue. And we're going to be serving it with a chantilly cream that's been made with mascarpone. So let's get started. So we're going to begin by lining our springform pan. Next, you would normally soak the raisins in the masala, but I've already done that, so this is ready to go, and I've actually had those soaking overnight. They only need to be soaked for about 30 minutes or so, or an hour or so, but the longer you leave it, the better they are. So those are sitting there ready to go. The next thing we're going to do, and I've already part melted my chocolate, and we're going to add to that the butter all at once. We're going to add our strong espresso and our sugar, and they're going to go over to the cooktop and be melted together. So just put your heat on very low, and you're going to need to stay with the chocolate and the other ingredients and move them and work with them while they're melting. If you don't do that, you will end up caking the chocolate, and it won't be any good. So just work with it on low heat and stir that around till it all melts in together. Okay, once that's completely melted, you turn the heat off completely and allow that to sit for 5 minutes to cool down. Now once that's been sitting for 5 minutes, what we're going to do is add the flour and the cocoa and sift those together into the chocolate. And also the raisins, along with the liqueur that they've been soaking in, and mix those up thoroughly. And then our egg yolks, one at a time, and mix them thoroughly through. Your mixture will start to get thick at this point, and that's because it is still warm, and what it's doing is it's starting to cook those egg yolks. This is exactly what we want it to do. Now we're going to whisk the egg whites until they're quite stiff. And now we're going to fold the egg white into our chocolate mixture 1/3 at a time. So we need to do this at 1/3 at a time because we don't want to flatten out all of that egg white. So just do a little bit, use a spatula and fold it into the chocolate mixture. Trying to keep as many of those air bubbles that we've just incorporated as possible. You will lose some, it's inevitable, because the chocolate mixture is just heavier than the egg white mixture, so it's important just to do as best you can. Make sure you get right down to the bottom of that saucepan. There'll be a lot of chocolate mixture down there that won't get mixed in if you neglect to do that. We want to make sure that the egg white really does mix thoroughly right throughout the entire cake mixture. And once you've got that thoroughly mixed, the next step is to pop it into the tin. And into the tin, it's going to be heavy, so make sure you steady yourself as you do it. Use your spatula, get right round the edges, and don't waste any of that beautiful mixture. And into the oven. Now it's important that you cool this completely in the pan, and the reason for that is it's going to be very, very difficult to remove otherwise. Because this cake doesn't have a lot of flour in it, it's actually quite soft, but it does harden up once it cools down. If you leave it to cool completely, you'll be able to lift the entire cake right out and place it straight on your plate. So remember that, it's important. So there's our finished cake. If you're going to serve it as a whole cake for a dessert, for example, and you want to serve it up and slice it up at the table, then I suggest you just place it on a large plate and dust a little bit of icing sugar over the top and serve the mascarpone on the side. But if you'd like to serve it individually, then cut off a piece and a little bit of mascarpone on the side. You might also want to put some berries or some other fresh fruit beside it as well. Now, how easy was that? And how divine does that cake look? This is definitely a winner if you are having guests. The great thing about it is you can in fact make it the day before. It tastes great the second day, in fact third day, the fourth day, if it lasts that long, and it really will go a long way. So if you've got a lot of people coming, as I mentioned at the beginning, put it into a bar tin or a loaf tin. You'll be able to cut off very, very thin slices, serve it with some fresh fruit, and of course the chantilly cream as well with the mascarpone, which holds its shape so much better. I hope you enjoyed the cake. I hope you love the recipe, and of course don't forget, come back to blackbookcooking.com, and that's where you'll find all of the expanded videos on how to do each of those major steps, and also the skills and techniques and the base recipes in this particular recipe. Thanks again for joining me for this week of Black Book Cooking. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now, I'm Victoria Hanson.